Hello, I'm Dr. Lee Hildebrand, and this is my next YouTube video with a focus on an area that's very pertinent to many of us in our professions, and that is emotional intelligence in our careers. Now, emotional intelligence, otherwise known as EQ or emotional quotient, is a different type of intelligence than IQ. EQ is a sense in which somebody is able to interpret cues, understand things in the context of conversations, to understand nuance, to understand emotion, to sense emotion, and also to be able to understand the way people's interactions coordinate together in various directions. Having a gut, if you will, in terms of things that you would want to say, things that you might not want to say, understanding not just the words that people are using, but where they're coming from in the delivery of what they're trying to say. What I'd like to do today as we talk about this subject is to take a look at some ways that you can improve, enhance your emotional intelligence as you're engaging in the workplace. Now, I'm going to give you 8 principles that can help you with this. First, I want to say in regard to emotional intelligence, of course, like anything else, genetics are involved as well as what you've been taught. Each of us have different intellectual aptitudes. We have different emotional quotient aptitudes. And so that's kind of a genetic base. And then we build upon that from what we've been taught in our households as we're growing up, as we have education and experiences. So it's my hope that I can assist you with a few tips that can help you take your baseline and just move it forward a little bit further for you as you advance your career goals. So let's dive into these points. Number 1 is to know your audience. When you're communicating with people or you're seeking to get something done in a family, in the workplace, and in some context, it's really important to ask yourself the most important question at the start is, what do they need? What's their biggest goal in terms of this exchange? Where are they coming from? What's important to them? This is a key ingredient that can help you in terms of, when you understand that, being able to communicate with them in ways that demonstrate that you understand it, and moving the conversation in directions where they can feel and understand a sense that you care about what's important to them, while you're simultaneously advocating, communicating about what's important to you in the engagement. Number 2, adding value to others. Another crucial, important, and ingredient for success in relating to others and really becoming a good leader is recognizing how to add value to others and in all interactions and relationships. Now, this principle came to me many years ago. I read much of the literature of John Maxwell, who is a leadership guru. He's written dozens of books on this topic, and definitely recommend that you check him out, John Maxwell. And as I was reading this, in a segment, he talked about adding value. And what he said is that he asks himself every day, in every single interaction that he has with others, how can I add value in this situation? In each of his interpersonal interactions, he does this. And he said whether it's the facility janitor or it's the CEO of a company, across the spectrum, he's thinking about this question: how am I adding value in this situation? Now, I read this principle and gave thought to it at the time, and it was profound to me. It was a crucial aspect of both experiencing peace and joy in communications, because we're thinking about the other as well as ourselves, and also in becoming more effective in communications. Now, his experience, and many of those that have turned to this concept, has witnessed a lot of people responding positively to this. And this is a stance that you can take in regard to your philosophy of relating to people, and to really see yourself as a conduit of positivity or love, if you will, to other people in your interactions. We can sometimes assist people in big and small ways to reach their greatest potential, to assist them in feeling valued if we take this approach. And simultaneously, it feels so good to interact with people this way and really be looking out for their best interests. You know, in the context of many fields, especially technical or business fields, you can really set yourself apart in taking this philosophy of how do I add value in this situation. Another context that I've seen it be very effective, and I coach people often in regard to this, is when they're searching for new opportunities or they're looking for a job. I recommend that when they're interviewing, that they don't get too caught up. Definitely do their homework ahead of time, but they don't get too caught up in trying to impress others, but they keep this concept in their mind during the interview in seeking to find some common ground and some ways to encourage the other person. I'll never forget an interview that I was involved in historically, where the person I was interviewing with had a family member that was going through just a terrible health situation. And I could tell as we were talking that this has taken a real toll on him. And I just said in simple terms in the interview that I really understood that had been the case, and I just really wish the best for him as he's navigating this. And he commented later on that that was a significant factor in regard to him hiring me, was recognizing that I could look out for and want to add value to him and see his best. So how often do we feel that others have our best interests in mind? If you think about it, most of us in any interaction are measuring almost subconsciously whether or not the person that we're communicating with really cares at all about us. Even in business communications, we're all sometimes consciously, somewhat subconsciously, we're evaluating to see, is this somebody that I can trust? So if you bring this to the forefront, you can really be understood and seen as somebody that others can trust in interactions with you. Now, I think of this adding value story, and one part of it is never underestimate the impact that you can have in terms of adding value. I had a circumstance back in high school where we had a gym class where we had to run a mile. I was in track and cross country and pretty quick with the mile. And we ran the mile, so I finished up my mile real quickly, and I noticed others were running on the track. And I saw a classmate. His name was Jeff. And he had been at times picked on by other kids. One of his legs was a little shorter than the other, so he had a little difficulty. He was on the shorter side, and he's really struggling with this mile. So I saw that, and I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna run the last several laps with him and encourage him in. Well, I did this, and of course Jeff appreciated it, but I didn't think a lot about it. 15 years later, after a high school reunion that I was not able to attend, a fellow classmate who witnessed that day called me up and he said, "Hey, Lee, I had to reach out to you. I didn't see you at the class reunion. Some impactful things have happened in my life, and I'll never forget the day when you ran those last 2 laps with Jeff. It made an impression upon me." So I share that only to emphasize we never know the extent to which we can add value to others and encourage them in thinking that way with the steps that we take. So let's move forward to concept number 3. That is, it's crucial to listen to others. In listening to others, you can use something called active listening. This is a great technique where when somebody tells you something that's important, you repeat back the basic gist of what they said. Hey, John, I hear you saying that you'd really like to get this deal done by the end of the week. Did I get that right? If you use this, you can use this in your family, you can use this in your relationships, but most importantly, too, use this in your profession. It's crucial that people know that you're listening to them. If you can simply repeat back in a very natural way the essence of what somebody is telling you, it's going to clarify that for them, and it's going to communicate to them that you care about what they're saying and you have interest in what they're bringing to the conversation. So listen to others. Use active listening. Our next concept, number 4, in terms of emotional intelligence in the workplace. This is be strategic. There's little cues that you can do that are going to let people know that you view them as important parts of the team, etc. And one of these is remember and use people's names. I strategically try to rehearse little sayings in my head related to people's names so that I can remember them. All kinds of gimmicks, some of which I would say out loud to the person, some of which I may not because it might sound kind of corny, to help me remember people's names. This is important. When somebody uses your name, you feel a sense of importance, especially if they've met you maybe once, etc. It's very impressive. So remember people's names and use their names. And don't be afraid if you forget to just say, hey, remind me, what was your first name again? And then rehearse it right away. Don't just receive it without rehearsing it, because then you'll forget it again. And then it gets kind of embarrassing when we're asking several times. In addition to that, reach out and check in on their status related to situations that you're working with them on. Touching base with people is important in business, in many careers, is a really do follow-up and check in with people, especially customers, to see if their needs are being met, if there's anything else that they need, etc. And then related to this strategic section is network with other people. Get to know other people in your community. Get to know people in your work community. If you just take that extra minute sometimes, it can definitely have an impact in regard to what you're trying to do in your business relationships. Because you may never know. You'll run into them in another context, and they'll remember you, which is going to help you in future dealings. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5, teach others how to treat you. This is a key fact. I have people complain to me at times that people don't treat them very well around them. They give them assignments all the time. They don't respect their time boundaries. They say things to them that aren't that respectful. I submit to you that all of us train other people how to treat us in how we react. How do we do with setting boundaries around situations? I'll definitely get to that, John. I'm just not going to be able to right now. That's an interesting idea. Let me think about that and get back to you. These are all little techniques that can give you a sense of empowerment and buying some time to think about things before you make a decision on whether or not you're going to do something or whether or not you're able to deliver in a situation. So teach others how to treat you in a respectful manner and model that to them by treating them in the same way. Number 6, this is similar. Have a good bedside manner. Have a sense of positivity when you're relating with other people. You can use humor and other aspects of just showing general positivity. And number 7, under-promise and over-deliver. It is much better to indicate in a situation where somebody wants something from you that you're definitely going to get to it, but probably in the next 2 weeks, and then to have it ready 1 week from then. They are going to be surprised. They're going to be appreciative. If you tell them instead, oh, definitely, I'm going to get that done by tomorrow, and you get it done in a week, that looks bad on you. So think about that when you're making commitments in your professional life, whether it's for a meeting or a lunch or certain projects. And obviously there's deadlines and things of that nature, but whenever you get the opportunity, under-promise and over-deliver. People will respect that and they'll appreciate that about you. Number 8, our last one, is be intentional in your communications with people and use direct contact whenever you can. What do I mean by direct contact? A phone call. Go into their office and talk to them. Oftentimes an email can sometimes be better than a text. With important interactions, it is way better to have a phone conversation than it is to send an email. If you're following up with a customer or client, it is way better to have a phone conversation than to simply send an email. In our culture today, we've experienced some sense of depersonalization in regard to our communication. And many people respond positively to your reaching out and making more of a direct connection with them. It shows them that they're important, and there are many nuances that you can address in a phone conversation or a one-on-one conversation that cannot be captured in email or text. And as we all know, sometimes things can be misinterpreted in an email or text that can move things in a negative direction. So those are 8 principles to help you to enhance and to tune up your emotional intelligence in your workplace, in your career. I hope that you find that these principles are helpful for you today. And I just want to encourage you in what you're trying to accomplish and the things that you're trying to do in terms of your life and your career. Please feel free to like the video today and obviously share it with anybody that you think that could really value from these tips today. I'm wishing you the best, and thanks so much for tuning in.